By this time tomorrow, we are going to know whether the country is one of laws or one of finger waving.
Hello, Rowan.
One where you must
Good, mate.
do what the police or the court say that you must do, as opposed to whatever you feel like doing. Now, you know that tomorrow there is due to be another of these Black Lives Matter protests. Now, whatever the meaning behind them, whatever the want behind them, whatever the demands are behind them, the reality is that in New South Wales you can't have a gathering of more than 10 people at a pub. And that's when you know who they are, when they all sign in and when everyone sits down. Yet these people wanted to have at least 500 people turning up at a protest in the middle of the city. A court was very clear and said, no, you can't have this event. Yet they say they're going to do it anyway. So here's the Premier, Gladys Berejiklian, take note of the tone the day before versus the police action that may or may not happen tomorrow.
Please don't. For your own safety and the safety of your loved ones. This is not a comment on the issues you feel strongly about. Many of us feel strongly about those issues. But a pandemic isn't the time to do this. Pick a different way, through social media or through letter or any other way to get your point across.
But even when they went to appeal the decision, the people who have had these things before, where there wasn't social distancing, where there weren't masks, where people's names and numbers and emails were not taken down, so if somebody ended up getting crook, they would be able to contact trace, which is the rule for every other gathering that happens, any other planned collection of people who have to get together for a birthday or anything else in the country. No, no, no. These people say, bugger it, we're going to keep pushing on. This is what they said after they failed to get to the Court of Appeal to overrule the initial decision that this thing should not happen tomorrow.
We are calling on the police. Do not harass us when we gather. Do not fine us. Do not arrest us. We won't be breaching the COVID regulations. If you stay in groups of less than 20, you are not in breach of the COVID regulations. We've got a massive park there in the Domain, and we'll be setting up a speaker system to make sure that people can be heard on this crucial issue.
So does anyone honestly believe they're going to be able to keep this thing to clusters of 20? This is something they've never been able to do before. They weren't able to do it in the very first of these protests, which happened after, of course, the death of George Floyd all those weeks ago in the United States. But as we have talked about many, many times before, this is not about that anymore. It is about people trying to use it as a Trojan horse to get their favoured politics over the line, one that is, frankly, not exactly the same as the one that we have built this country upon. Now, the police, for their part, well, they're talking the game that anyone who's going to turn up tomorrow at the Domain in Sydney, well, they're going to be fined. They could be arrested, allegedly even 6 months jail.
We're not mucking around, but as I've said in the past, this isn't about making a punitive action against anybody who wants to protest. This isn't about making life difficult for anybody who wants to express a political opinion. They can do that. They can ring Talkback Radio, they can write letters to the editor, they can get on social media. This is about keeping them safe.
So here's the catch-22. The police will talk tough and say that they will police the law, that they will fine people. The police minister says they could end up with 6 months jail. The Premier says, please don't come. The organisers say, don't antagonise us. Well, your turning up is the act of antagonism. You're turning up, you're breaking the rules, you gathering in the group that you plan is going to be the problem. Whatever the police do tomorrow is not going to be the problem. But here's where we're going to hit an interesting thing. The conversation happening inside police circles right now in Sydney is about what to do. Is it going to be fines that will be handed to people on the outskirts of the Domain, which is a very large park area in the middle of Sydney? Is that where the fines will be handed out? Will they start picking people off one by one as they leave the protests to hand them over? Because what they would absolutely not want to do is to move in on the horses, have the riot gear and start pulling people apart, even though the court would completely say that's okay. Because you see, part of those that are travelling inside the Trojan horse of this movement are the ones who want a provocation from police. These are the ones who middle finger the idea of a court that says you can't be there. It may not be the organisers, but I guarantee, as somebody who has seen protests with my own eyes, as a reporter, as a citizen for decades, there will be someone in that protest tomorrow who's going to want to fight with the cops. So the cops are in an impossible position. If you let them get away with it, then the rule of law means nothing. If you confront them too aggressively, then you give them what they want, which is a confrontation with police. And then if there's a confrontation with police, that, of course, becomes a justification for more protests, for more and higher and higher and higher. Perfect example. Here's the United States, where there is a federal court building in the city of Portland, Oregon. Nothing to do with George Floyd's murder. This is all about let's provoke the police. It's a federal building. A fence was put around the building. The police guard the building. So guess what the protesters did when they were trying to provoke the police, who they claim, of course, provoked them first? They shot laser beams in their eyes, the same sorts of laser beams that if you aimed them tonight from your backyard up at a plane, it wouldn't just be illegal, you'd be hunted down and sent to jail. Have a look at this. And this is not just a little bit of fun. This is something that has lifelong consequences. According to the White House, some of those agents that were having lasers shone in their eyes may well be permanently blinded as a result of it. So, as always, I support the police. However, they are in a difficult position. The position which is they have every right to fully police the law that has been put in place by the Parliament, has been reaffirmed not once but twice by the courts. But you watch tomorrow how the media falls if there is any sort of confrontation that gets out of control tomorrow. Now, hopefully, all of this is a giant bust, a dozen people turn up, and there are way more police than even television reporters who will be there. But make no mistake what the game is. It ain't about Black Lives Matter. The organisers may say that. Many involved may passionately believe that. But there are plenty on the edges who want to do what is happening in the United States, which is to create a scenario where who cares who threw the first punch, but it ends up being a justification for why you keep on punching. Watch this space. As I say, everyone else will be talking about this tomorrow. I want to talk about it tonight to forewarn you of what are the stakes of what lies ahead.